Hello, welcome to the AI Narratives Podcast, episode number 2. This podcast explores humanity's relationship with AI through a protopian lens. In this episode, I'm excited to bring Juliet Wright, the CEO of Tally Creative, which is a branding agency helping organizations, and now authors, elevate their brand to the next level. Juliet is an entrepreneur and author who's also about to publish her first book. Not only is Juliet an author herself, JOA Publishing has partnered with Tally Creative to help their authors with their own book branding. And after working with her team firsthand, I can attest to the attention to detail and the human authenticity involved in creating a powerful book brand. I'm excited to bring that to the fold. This podcast is a companion piece to my upcoming novel, Human Traits. If you want to learn more about the book and keep informed about this podcast, please head over to puhala.com/human. And now, here's Juliet Wright. Juliet.
Yeah.
Welcome to the AI Narratives Podcast.
Well, welcome to Nebraska.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's my first time in this little location, which first time I've actually heard of Grand Island. So
yeah, I always say Grand Island when no one ever knows where it is. So I always say that Nebraska is in the center of the map. Grand Island's in the center of the state. So if you took a map and you folded it 4 times, that middle crease would be right where I live. So for anyone that doesn't know, that's trying to rack their 3rd grade brain, Nebraska's in the middle. Yep, we're just right in the center of it all.
Well, thank you for hosting me and thank you for having, this is a great space and it's lovely to be here and extending your graciousness and your hospitality with even the experts around this agency. How we know each other is, of course, we're both part of the JOA or Joan of Arc Publishing community and family, I suppose. We're both right in the process of writing books. And also you are, not only do you own and operate the branding agency called Tally Creative, you're helping me create the branding for my book, which Human Traits. So maybe you can just do a quick, brief introduction of Tally Creative and what you do. Why I'm here is to talk up to you about, what does AI look like in the branding and the world of marketing. But why don't you just take a minute to speak to what Tally Creative actually is?
So in this world of branding, marketing, agency, or advertising, PR, it's kind of this, we say oftentimes it's like a lottery. People are just grasping at numbers, hoping for a winning combination, hoping that something works. So our goal at Tally is really to inspire, to activate, and to elevate, to take the guesswork out of it. So where a branding agency fits in, which is a little bit different than a marketing agency or an advertising agency, a branding is really that foundation. So it's really who you are at the core, what you stand for, what colors represent you, what do those speak to your clients, who's your target market. When people see your logo, your face, your brand, how does that make them feel? And so we really lay that foundational level of your brand, making sure that it's rock solid, that you can't wait to show it off, that you're confident in it. And we truly believe that once that brand's in place, marketing, advertising, PR, everything else gets easier. But that's often the step that's missed. Often we're so excited to open a storefront. We're so excited to start a digital campaign. But if you don't know who you are, how the heck is the rest of the world supposed to know? So that's where we come in. We help you figure out who you are. We work with companies either when they're starting brand new, we help them develop who they are for the first time. Most of the clients that we work with, I would say, are in some kind of midlife crisis, some kind of identity crisis. Usually because of good things like growth. They've added partners, they've added locations or new products. And now the brand that they once created, they've outgrown. So kind of like a pair of shoes that's too small, they're walking around limping and they're like, it's okay, it's good enough. So we really challenge, it's not good enough. Let's take some time, usually 3 to 6 months. We even have a 3-day blitz program. Where in 3 days, let's get that shoe off, get you in something that fits so that really the sky's the limit.
Well, case in point, you just helped Kira rebrand JOA Publishing.
Yeah, in 2 days. It was amazing what we could accomplish. I have a team of 7 and it was all hands on deck. I say it's kind of like the Disney Fast Pass. But yeah, it's amazing for us to see the confidence grow, and it is life-changing work. I know everyone can say that about their job to some degree, but when we help someone like Kira or like anyone, like that brand could change the trajectory of their business, which in turn, their lives, their family lives, their generations to come.
Of course, you're an entrepreneur, but you're also going to be an author. You're also writing your own book through JOA Publishing. Why don't you kind of speak to that for a second?
I'm writing a couple books right now. Actually, my main one is called The Red Thread Process, and it's really just helping people break through these lies that we tell ourselves to reach our full potential. So not only is it a book, but it will be a process that I hope people use as they're working through kind of a self-help process. But I have big dreams that it could be coaching and consulting and podcasts and, everything like that. It's a really simple concept, but it has been just life-changing. So that should be coming out hopefully November or so, and just finishing up, and can't wait to get it out to the world.
Yeah. And so how would you maybe distinguish the difference in branding for a book? So over maybe a brand for a company, or rebranding a company, is that a different process?
In some ways it's the same, but a book is a little bit unique because oftentimes if you're walking into a bookstore, the cover of that book is maybe all you see, the title and the cover. So that puts a lot of pressure on getting it right, on our designers and things like that. And so we're a company, you have a lot of elements of a brand coming in. Everything from the Christmas gifts they send, to the rug in their front door, to the candle they burn in their office. I mean, there's hundreds of pieces that go into a brand. So a book is similar in a lot of ways when you look at the book or the individual as a whole, the author as a whole. But when you just think of the physical book, you really have one shot.
There's one small experience.
You don't get those other pieces. Mm-hmm. And so it's been really fun as we've been beginning to work with JOA and creating these book covers, because it's like, it's really looking at it from a human side of, would I buy this book?
Yeah, and that's an interesting process. You said you have 5 concepts to show me. I'm really excited to look at those as to what that will be for my own book. So I'm here for a selfish reason as well, but I'm thankful that you're here participating in this podcast. But I imagine a lot of authors could be going down the route of AI to help them with their own brand or whatnot. And I'm curious to know some of the thoughts that you have. It's really interesting just speaking to entrepreneurs and people that are leading their own categories, what to think about and ponder what artificial intelligence and AI will be, how it will weave into the fabric of that category, how it will impact it, both adversely but also positively. Curious to know just how you think AI is, one, actually being used today, but also kind of a forward-looking horizon. What do you think the possibility, and again, from a protopian perspective, we talked about that off camera, is what does that horizon, what's the potential of that horizon?
Yeah, I really view AI, I mean, we use it in our agency every day as a tool, but the way that I'm seeing it come through in design, whether this is a book cover or a logo or a sales piece or whatever that looks like, is if you know what you want and you're clear in that, crystal clear, I think AI can be a great tool. Because if you can describe exactly what you're thinking or what you have in your head, then AI has everything you need, even now at this very early stages, to develop that. I think the piece that often goes forgotten is that as humans, we don't know what we need. And so that's when it really takes someone to pull it out, to ask the right questions, to have you considered this? What about that? I mean, and we're bringing in the life experiences from childhood. Sometimes when we deal with, when we help individuals or companies name a company for the first time, we go back to what are pieces in your life that mean something to you, but they would be abstract to other people, such as the street you grew up in, the street you grew up on, maybe your favorite teacher's name. What was your favorite pet's name growing up? These little pieces that, the outside world might not see those.
Nor will AI extract in the process.
Right. Some of my friends had a band and they named their band Down Sumner, which doesn't mean anything, but it's a kind of cool band name, Down Sumner. That's because one of the bandmates lived on Sumner Street. So they literally had to go down Sumner to pick him up. So that came out in some, hey, we're just going down Sumner to pick you up. And they're like, hey, that's a pretty cool band name. AI can't pull that from you. And so it really is, there's benefits to it if you're clear. But I think there's still that concierge side, that expert side of knowing what to pull. And that's where some of the magic happens that you're not expecting.
Is there a soul to a brand?
I think so. We look at brands as almost their own people. So even if you're a sole proprietor or an author, obviously you have your own personality. And the brand that you create for your company or your book, it might be similar, but it has its own personality, kind of like your own child. Like, so yeah, we do talk about it as if, how would this brand say this? Or like, I don't think the brand's that witty. Like, we needed to bring it back. And so it does have its own personality. I feel like its own soul. And oftentimes when you talk to entrepreneurs, that company becomes almost its additional child or its additional part of their family, because it is that real.
The red thread that is becoming apparent in my process of talking to entrepreneurs is, how does AI help us scale information that we are already feeding it, rather than asking AI or GPT to go out and create something for us? Kira mentioned in the last episode something about, like when she feeds it information and asks it to then extrapolate or to summarize. But I'm curious to know, then, you said you're using AI tools every day. Maybe you can describe a little bit about, what does the AI tool set look like for you and your team here at Tally?
I use it as a brainstorming tool. I'm very big picture, very visionary. My wheels are spinning literally 24 hours a day. I wake up almost every morning at 4 a.m. with ideas. Like, I can't stay in bed. And so for me, something that I have discovered is that often I've been described throughout my life as being like too much or too many ideas. People often, my husband will give me a hard time. He's gotten a little bit more used to it, but he'll wake up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I've already whiteboarded out a business and have 3 ideas and have created the logo. And he wakes up feeling lazy because he slept in until 7 a.m. on a Saturday. And I'm already have worked through and have ideas and I'm ready to go. I already have a domain name registered by the time he wakes up. And that can be exhausting for someone, for anyone to try to absorb that. So I use AI of really just brainstorming. Hey, this is an idea I have. What could be the potential pitfalls in this? Where could revenue be generated? What are some unique things, target markets that maybe traditional people don't think of? And so for me, it's that real-time correspondence. Now, 95% of the ideas I come up with don't go anywhere. They end up dying by lunchtime. But I have found that just as I'm thinking of those and I want to process it, AI has been a great tool for that for me. And it has brought perspective that a lot of times I wouldn't have thought of myself.
Yeah, we think about AI right now generating a lot of text. Of course, AI, there's a big trend in generating art or generating more creative content. How do you see like that playing out in the world of marketing, branding, PR? I know specifically we're talking about branding, but how that bleeds over into other marketing efforts.
Yeah. And I can't even wrap my head around where this will be a year, 2 years, 5 years. I mean, someday we'll look back on this podcast and just laugh at what we didn't know, right? But I do feel like, it is a great tool even right now for, again, basic designs if you know what you want. Logos and graphics and infographics. It's already there if you can bring that clarity. So again, it's kind of like if you knew exactly what you wanted for supper and you didn't feel like cooking, so you went to a restaurant and you told them exactly what you wanted, like that's kind of that same hack, because the cook can cook it for you and you don't have to do dishes and you don't have to go grocery shopping and you don't have to prepare the meal.
Sure.
But again, you have to be clear. And I think the reason we love restaurants is because you don't know what you want when you go. And you have all the options and you have things that you didn't even think of eating that night. And so I do think that if you know what you want, if it's fairly simple, And if you're flexible, then AI, is there already. But I think, again, there's so much more that we don't know that we want. And that's where I still am encouraging my designers that, like, you know what they don't know that they want.
Sure. When I think about time before the internet and all the good things and bad things the internet does for society, and then the next tectonic shift, it seemed, was kind of the social media revolution, kind of Web 2.0 elements of, again, both good things of social media. And we talk about how that helps in branding, how that helps us with marketing, how social media helps in other ways. But there's also a more darker or nefarious element of social media, certainly, that is self-serving or does other things. So now if we think about the good and bad of AI, what would you say the warning is in this category and brand? Like, what would be maybe some possible mistakes or areas that would not be good in the area of branding for?
Yeah. I think it's just settling for that first, whatever AI spits out first. If you just grab that and run, it's going to be generic. And so let's say that you were creating a pet grooming business. If you said, create me a logo for a pet groomer. And if you take the first thing the AI spits out and say, yeah, that's good enough. Well, not only you, but hundreds of other people starting a pet grooming business are going to be doing the same thing. And so I think there is a fear or a negative of getting too generic, because even though our prompts change slightly, if we just really are taking that first piece, I could see a lot of consistency. And then you say, there's really no originality in that. So anytime we use AI, it's always a first draft, and make sure that we work it and work it and work it and work it, and go those layers deeper.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that fear, if everyone just takes that top layer when it comes to branding, if everyone says, what's the most popular color for a brand? The answer is blue. There's more blue brands than anything else. And blue naturally means trust and compassion, which is a good thing to have in a brand. And so if I just said, what's the most popular color for a brand? And it said blue, and thousands and thousands of people do that, then we have a whole world of blue brands. So it's really, I think, taking it that layer deeper. And I think that the downfall could be, taking the shortcut. It's already a shortcut.
Sure.
But taking the shortcut of a shortcut.
So yeah, one way that I think about it is, how does AI help humans scale and extend our creativity, but not replace our creativity? But I'm wondering, is there, you said you've had some conversations with, like, the team staff that are kind of on the front lines of the creative and, kind of hands to keyboard and mouse and the drawing pad today. You even mentioned yourself earlier that you like to produce a lot of things, like, physically. You like to print them out.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit of that versus, because I imagine most of the world of branding, it's all digital, digitally shared, digitally, shown. Oftentimes, maybe things will never get to print just because they start digitally, they end digitally. Maybe tell me a little bit about the kind of more analog process that you work through.
Yeah, and that's probably stems from just who I am as a founder and as a visionary. But really, I just love tangible things. I still write on paper with a pen. I don't even use line paper. I use, like, copy paper. And so you'll see today, as you're here at the office, like, there's just random papers everywhere. But that's part of my process. And I do think, even if I never read the notes again, there's something in my brain that connects when I'm actually writing. We're particular about paper here. We even use a certain paper that has a touch to it, because there's something about pulling it off and feeling it and making sure that it feels right. So while most agencies are going completely paperless, everything's going, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have MacBook Pros, we use Dropbox, we have servers, like, we are very much, tech savvy. But yet, when we're looking at logos, when we're looking at color palettes, we print and print and print. We tape things to walls, we lay things out. There's something about walking in a room and seeing things taped to a wall that it just touches us differently than
Sure.
seeing it on a screen.
You still have the storyboard, I don't know if, or vision board
Yeah.
that you created for Kira.
It's still up,
and down. So
yeah.
I actually just took a picture of that because there's something about coming in and seeing the physical elements
Yeah.
of her brand kind of come to life in that sense as a way of example. But I think there's this almost a move back to analog or maybe some nostalgia
Yeah.
that we're bringing a whole reason. I mean, vinyl is kind of having a moment again in this, and because we can experience the cover art, we can experience the physical object
Yeah.
rather than just streaming, a piece of audio
Yeah.
through Spotify.
I think those idea of like our senses, like, sight and smell and touch and taste, I mean, those don't go away just because we get, more advanced
Sure.
with the digital age. And so it's like we still want to touch something. We still like the feel of fabrics. When you buy a new shirt, I'm more likely to buy a shirt if it's soft. Like that's not going to change. So yeah, I do think that there's something. My background's in photography and I started in a darkroom with my grandpa. I mean, even to this day, there's something about the smell of darkroom chemicals. There's something about the smell of film. I mean, I remember opening film canisters and like smelling it because there's something about that triggers childhood memories standing on a chair in a darkroom.
Sure.
And so I do think that, there's an emotional attachment. And just like when you talked about, does a brand have a soul? I think it does. And the more that we can bring in all the senses, when we're working with companies to brand, I mean, we'll say, what candle, what scent is your company? And, they'll say like, well, we're just a law office. And I'm like, I know, but like, is it deep leather? Is it mulberry? Is it dust and paper? Like, what is a scent that you want people, even if they never are in your office, but like when they think of your company, what do you want them to associate with you? Because it's a part of a person, of a soul, and a brand.
My book's called Human Traits, and so what you're drawing out a lot of for me is, how do we in a brand context bring in more human, analog feeling elements. Something that I don't think artificial intelligence will try to simulate, but it can't replicate.
Right.
And so in that sense, I'm really curious about the process today. I'm like really excited to go through that and what that will look like in the book. But I guess maybe as we start to kind of close the conversation, I mean, where do you see this possible? I mean, you've already kind of given us a warning, like, okay, we could be seeing a lot of copycats, or it's going to be just almost too easy to make the shortcut. And I certainly want to end more on a positive note as to like, okay, what, so we've talked about warning. Like, what do you think if you were to like, I know you said it's hard to put 3, 4, 5 years out because we could be dangerously wrong.
Yeah.
With where this is, and we would have never even thought about where the internet was 20 years ago when it really was getting mainstream. Where do you see, like, what do you see as the best possible scenario in your world that AI will help? I mean, and I'm going to challenge you to like think not just help, like go as far as you can in your head as to where you think this could go, and help you flourish or help your team flourish.
Yeah, I think it's just going to open up creativity on a more level playing field. And I mean that in the best way. Some artists can say, I remember in digital photography, when I transferred from film to digital, I had the first Canon 5D Mark II, Canon 5D. And some photographers said, oh, now everyone's going to be photographers. Other photographers say, this is great. Now everyone can be photographers. So it's the same thing, right? And so it's kind of this idea that why are we holding creativity, copywriting, book writing, why are we holding graphic design hostage? Because in some ways you could say, well, to be a graphic designer, you have to have this, 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 and this, and this. I have a 12-year-old son, and with AI, he can create anything he wants. And that opens up a whole world of creation and imagination and beauty and appreciating colors and textures. And so why would we want to hold that back? So I really view it as this something that was maybe limited to a few, or now this beauty, this art, this creativity, this expression of emotions, of self, this expressions of life, the door is going to be open to everyone. And I view that as a positive.
Yeah, it's access.
It's access. Yeah, just like a car gave access, just like, I was actually at a networking meeting in Ohio last week, and there's this big Airbnb that was kind of our central meeting point. And there was a big grand piano, and everyone kind of went around and everyone kind of tinkered. I know about 4 little songs that I could play. And well, we didn't realize that it was a player piano. So they turn on an iPad and play, and this piano plays and plays and plays and plays. And even then I said, I wonder if, the great composers, Bach and Beethoven, if they could see this player piano off an iPad with thousands of songs, I wonder if they'd say, oh no one's ever going to learn to play piano again. Or I wonder if they'd say, this is wonderful, now everyone can enjoy the sound of piano.
Yeah, I mean, my mind goes in so many directions just on that imagery, because on one hand, we could just play the song from the iPad. You don't even need the piano.
Right.
But there's something more, there's something more satisfying when the iPad is instructing the piano, which is then now the music is coming from a physical object, not a digital stream.
Yeah.
And so we get to experience that, but then yet there's still something missing.
Yeah.
There's not a human playing it. You're not seeing an emotion of somebody pouring their heart into this, maybe even making a small flaw or error in that, or the ability to make quickly, whereas the piano can just do it for us.
No, but I think there's still something magic about going to a piano recital, and even if they're painful, but watching these little 6, 7, 8-year-olds learning to play and seeing their emotions and seeing the grandma's eyes, light up. And it's like, I don't know how long player pianos have been around, but I hope that they have only encouraged more little kids to take lessons or more adults to take lessons versus discouraged. And so, yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that point, but we sat around this piano in awe. And as conversation happened, this piano played for hours, where none of us, if that piano hadn't been in the room, I don't think any of us would have said.
But it would have just been background music.
Or I don't think any of us would have said, let's put on piano music in the background.
Of course, yeah.
But because it
was
was
a
there,
physical object that
that
was playing. So there was something about, again, the analog nature, even though it was being assisted by technology.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe an example that we have, that even as technology's there, but hopefully it opens a world. I am optimistic. I mean, I'm even excited. I have some artistic ability and I'm learning now through writing this book. I never would have considered myself a writer. I'm terribly dyslexic. I'm a horrible speller. But because of tools like spell check and Grammarly and everything, like, I'm able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do 50 years ago.
Sure.
And so I am optimistic about AI. I'm excited for it. I'm along for the ride, but I do hope that it opens this world that has never been opened before.
Yeah. Well, that's a great image to leave the audience with. And just again, thank you so much for participating in this podcast. And I'm excited to kind of go through the red thread process that your book is about. And I'm excited about the launch of your book as well. But thank you again. And thank you for joining us, and be well.